Peace, family. I'm back with another one. This is a special one. This one is from the Magna Crystals and Pyramids YouTube channel. Brother Hank's Moorish Mondays with RaSirius and Brother Abdullah Mostly Bay. These are two of my teachers that I study under, two great teachers. But today's topic is, what's your spirituality? Are you spiritual? And what's your spirituality? And so if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're a returning viewer, thank you. You know what I'm saying? That last one, y'all helped me get up, you know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate y'all. I'm trying to get this platform to 1,000 subscribers. Help me build this platform. I'm not gonna do too much talking. Y'all came to see the information, so without holding y'all, we're gonna jump straight into it.
On behalf of Akuno Call for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. HOPE. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
All right, that's so first off, one of the things I wanted to basically do was give honors to Noble Drew Ali. I wanted to give honors to Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I want to give honors to Shem Malachi Bey, and also I want to give honors to Brother Abdullah, who's pretty much been helping me through all of this. And I've been running with the brother for so long. Between the misconceptions discovered between the both of us and where we are now, I'm so proud to be around this brother right now. So let me see here. Everybody can still see me. Yeah, you're good. Everyone can see you. All right, let's do this. All right, y'all. So you see there, once again, click the notification, subscribe, hit the notification button. If you haven't done so already, you see across the screen my website, mooresandmainstreet.org. Let me know when you're ready. Also, we have the Moorish Moroccan Post, the Moorish Investigative Research Committee. Our class that we did on this past Saturday is posted on my YouTube page, my website, my Facebook page, Abdullah Bay. I've also shared it out to hundreds of people already. All right. So let me know when you're ready, brother. All right. So one of the things I wanted to get into is we're talking about spirituality. Now, most of us walk around and we're saying that, we're spiritual. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Do we even know what spirituality is? Do we know what spirit is? Now, I can't show you, but I'm going to read everything that I have so that I can give you an understanding when I go through the definitions and give you their origins, since you can't see. Now, number one, spirit comes from a spiritus, or spirar, which is Latin. Now, spirit means breath. So when we're walking around talking about we're spiritual beings or we're highly spiritual beings, what are we talking about if spirituality means breathing? What does spirituality have to do with religion? What does spirituality have to do with you having knowledge of self? If you're spiritual and you have knowledge of self, what do you have knowledge of? Is it your breathing? Because I see a lot of us walking around, we smoking, we have improper breathing habits, which causes us to walk in a certain way. If anybody ever really pays attention to it, how we breathe affects everything that we do in life. How we breathe affects everything that we intake into our temple, everything that we intake into our mind. So if this is true spirituality and we're talking about breathing, then I guess we're getting more into yoga sciences and things like that. Because when you get into yoga, they have the yoga positions. The positions, they call them asanas. Now, an asana basically is a geometric formation that you shape your body into in order to breathe in or intake spirit a certain way. So they're called asanas in the yogi tradition. When you get into proper breathing, which they call it pranayama, that is the transmutation of the air that you're breathing into something more. So there's a lot to this breathing. And to simply say you're walking around, I'm spiritual, is not saying that you are breathing correctly. It has nothing to do with breath. The closest to breath that most religions can tell you is that their creator breathed into man, or breathed into clay, or breathed into earth and animated the being. So if that's what spirit is, and spirit has to do with breath, what animated you? Why is that so important? And why are we utilizing spirituality or spirit today in a whole nother fashion? When some of us think of spirit, we think of some kind of ghost form of us that's inside of us or outside of us, depending on what science you're dealing with. Now, because we're dealing with spirit, you can't get around the factor of dealing with mathematics. It seems like they wouldn't apply together, but let's get into it. Now, the universe pretty much is geometry. The universe is mental. All is numbers. Geometry is the key to unlocking the cosmic pattern behind creation and the harmonic blueprint of the universe reflected in all living things. Geometry unveils the knowledge of the master builder and grand architect of the universe. The ancient knowledge of numbers, time, space, and the universe. So if mathematics is the underlying basis of all things in the universe, and the universe is mental and still dealing with numbers, how does spirit apply to that? Does spirit not come from the universe? Do you not come from the universe? So, now normally, let's get into breath. Now normally, the adult breathes at an average of 18 breaths per minute when subjected to very light activity or seated at rest. When we are concentrating, one second. There you go. Now, when we are concentrating heavily on a subject, our rate of breathing automatically drops to about 9 breaths per minute. Now, we may have noticed that usually protracted or concentration work, readily runs into, a state of tiredness, fatigue, sleepiness, basically. All right, now this is due to diminished intake of air. Once again, how we breathe. That diminished intake of air is also utilized to induce trance, depending on what people or what culture that you're dealing with that are still part of us. All right, so there are certain numbers that's basically broken down in the way that we breathe, the ratio of how we breathe. All right, all of that changes the frequency as well as the consciousness of everything, once again, that we intake. There is a harmonic to it. Now, I want to read you something from a book called Metu Netter by Raun Neferamin. All right. Now, Raun Nefer says the harmonics of breathing. All things vibrate, including the human spirit and body, and each thing vibrates to its specific key. Vibrating mechanisms of the human body is the breathing system. Now, when we are seated at rest, the spirit vibrates. We breathe at 18 waves per minute. Comparing the cyclical values of our respiratory and circulatory systems with the solar system, which yields some very revealing things. Now, let's begin with the fact that there's a 1-to-4 ratio between our breathing and pulse rates. So that's roughly about 18 breaths to 72 pulses. So at 18 breaths to 72 pulses, and the rate of the Earth's rotation and the time it takes to rotate 1 degree every 4 minutes. A good meditation objective would be to see if the 1-to-4 relationship between our breathing and the pulsation rate was determined by the clocking mechanism that controls the Earth's rotation around its axis. So do we breathe like this because of the way the Earth moves on its axis? Or is that just something that's coincidental? What you say is coincidental? Let's continue. Now, the average rate of 18 breaths per minute equals 25,920 breaths a day. I'll say that again. The average rate of 18 breaths per minute equals 25,920 breaths a day. Now, this figure, 25,920, corresponds with the number of years it takes for the North Pole to trace a complete circle through our zodiac. Now, the significance of this relationship has been known for thousands of years, although its true meaning has been lost to all authors since the destruction of the Temple of Luxor. 25,920 years it takes for the North Pole to go through all 12 signs of the zodiac in the sky. So we have 12 signs in the zodiac. Those same 12 signs can be broken down into periods of time. So one zodiac sign is 30 degrees. We have 12 signs. 12 times 30 gives you 360. So it's 360 degrees in a circle broken down into 12 spheres or 12 constellations or 12 time periods. The ancients, they called it an age. So for each zodiac, it was 2,160 years. So in 2,160 years per zodiac sign, when you go through all 12, you will come up to 25,920 years, equal to the same thing as 18 breaths per minute. When you go through how many minutes in a day, we know it's 24 hours in a day, 60 times 24. Gives you amount of minutes in a day, 18 breaths per minute, 25,920. So with each zodiac sign being 2,160 years, that's what at the time they considered an age. So in that age of 2,160 years, some of the ancient ones, especially those in the Kemetic science in Egypt or in Kemet, the Kamal people, depending on what science you're dealing with our ancient brothers and sisters, our ancient foremothers and forefathers, the 2,160 years or the 30 degrees inside of each zodiac was even broken down even further into a decan. Now that decan, there's 3 of them per sign. So if we do the math, if you have 3 deacons per sign, how many years is a deacon? 720 years per deacon. So at 720 years per deacon times 3 gives you one zodiac sign of 2,160 years, which be 720 times 3. Now, to go further in this, the our Hindustan brethren and sisters, Moors, to give you something with them, the knowledge of the harmonics of breathing survives veiled in the Hindu allegory of the yugas and the Chaldean sacred cycles of the Saros and Naros. Now, according to Hindu allegory, man has not always behaved as he currently does. There was a time when all men were honest and truthful. Now, this was during the first 4 ages of which in history of mankind is divided. Now, this golden age, or Krita Yuga, or Satya Yuga, all right, honesty, lasted for 1,728,000 years. Remember that number, 1,728,000 years. It was followed by other ages in which man's goodness and power degenerated by degrees. Following the golden age was the silver age, known as the Tetra Yuga. It lasted 1,296,000 years. Now, this was followed by the Copper Age or the Dwapara Yuga and lasted 864,000 years. 864,000 years. Now, the last age in which we're living in now started in about 3150 BC, after the death of Lord Krishna. Now, this is the Iron Age, which is known as Kali Yuga, and will last for 432,000 years. 432. Now, together, they add up to a great period, which they call the Maha Yuga. All right, that great period of time where they have it all together, which equaled about 4,320,000 years. Now, most books on Hindu culture, they simply mention the allegories as unprovable scientific fact of the solar system. We discover some startling correspondences. Now, the correspondences, if you think about it, I just went through the 25,920 year cycle that it takes the North Pole to go from one side to the last side. All right, we went through the periods of 72. All right, so the Earth moves at a rate of 1 degree each 72 years. So every 72 years, the Earth moves 1 degree. Mind you, it has to go through 360. It moves 1 degree every 72 years, which they said is similar to our pulse rate. Now, since it's 30 years or 30 degrees each sun, 72 times 30, 25,920. 2,160, which is an age, times 12, 25,920. Our zodiac broken down into 3 deacons. Each deacon having their own time period. In fact, each deacon had its own constellation or its own star, because they were written on the coffins roughly around 2700 BC. They were finding them on coffins. Now, all of these same numbers that I gave you, all the yugas, the 432,000, the 72 degrees times 30, the 25,920, the 2,160. The one thing that all these numbers have in common, if anybody hasn't checked into it, is the fact that when you add all of these numbers up and break it down to a single digit, it still comes up with 9. So 25,920 years, 25920. Break it down to 1 digit, 9. Pulse rate is 72. 9, 7 and 2. 360 degrees in a circle, 3 and 6, and 0, 9. Even if vibration ratios in the yugas of the Hindustan, with their 432,000 year cycle, 4,320,000 years at the end. If you take 4,320 times 4 times 100, you get 1,728,000. 1728 followed by 3 zeros is still 9. Why is this 9 so sequential in nature? Why does this same 9 apply to our breathing? At 18 breaths per minute, that's at rest. That's when we're sitting doing nothing. They say melanin man is composed of 666. 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. 666 is 18. We're back to that 9 again. What is the science of this 9 that's so important in nature? And don't get me wrong. The 9 is important, but that's not to say that it's important, more important than any other number, because I can get with you on 3. I can get with you on 5. I can get with you on a square. We can get into the platonic solids and talk about why those geometric shapes are important and how it's based in sound that bring that about. Everything is energy, even our breathing. To bring our breathing into a certain harmonic frequency, we have to practice denial, not slow breathing, sitting there and just, no, that's not enough. You slowing down your breathing rate or your breathing rate is not going to make you any more spiritual. You quickening your breathing rate is not going to make you any more spiritual. If 666 is the number of the beast, and we who have melanin have the number or the mark of that beast, then we're the beast walking around that needs to change its breathing in order to obtain some form of what we call godhood. To get closer to God, you need to change your breathing. To get closer to the Creator, you need to change your breathing. When your Creator expelled you after 9 months through her stargate, she had to breathe in order for the contractions to push you forward out into the physical realm or out into the outside womb realm. You had to be contracted and pushed through that stargate. You ain't walk out. You ain't crawl out. And if she didn't breathe right, she went through pain. So understand the true importance of breathing. Your spirituality is based in your breathing, not slowing it down. How many of us, when we actually inhale breath, when you inhale spirit, how many of you expand your abdomen? I mean, you're inhaling. Something's coming in your body. Why isn't your stomach expanding, accepting it properly? Because you're shallow breathing. Shallow breathing don't get you closer to God. The Hindustan deal with yoga not only as a science, but as a culture. It's a way of life. So think about that. How to breathe is a way of life. How to breathe. That sounds like spirituality to me. How to breathe. You intake breath and you don't even expand your stomach. What are you intaking? Nothing. You intaking it all into your chest and it stops there. How does the energy circulate through the rest of your body when you're not breathing properly? When our foremothers and forefathers would utilize breathing to go into trance, when they utilize breathing in certain geometric positions of their body, you think it's just the folding up of the legs and things like that. If you ever pay attention, those are geometric formations that those asanas are doing. And it's all based in mathematics. Your breathing is even still affected by the universe. When you're swimming and you're in water, you have a different breathing rate. They say, hold your breath. No, you're supposed to breathe with it. So every time you dunk underwater, when you come up, they say come up for air. What are you doing? Inhaling. Take in the spirit. Go underwater. Breathe in the spirit. Change the frequency in your body. Proper breathing allows you to control your diet. Proper breathing allows you to expel carcinogens that you're around. Proper breathing allows you not to take them things into your temple other than going through your epidermis, which is your skin. Your skin breathes. It ain't just coming out your nose and your mouth and your ears. No, it's not coming out just your organs. No, your skin breathes. Your skin lives. It's living. It's a part of what makes up the temple of you. Masonry knows it. They utilize it in their sciences. It's not nothing hidden. And that's not to say anything negative about masonry. It's our culture being utilized as a teaching mechanism and a civilization principle for those who were not totally civilized at a time. More science is cosmology. Cosmology, the cosmos, the universe. Everything without is within. We just went through sciences of just the number 9. It's not counting a square, which still brings you to 9 because it's 4 degrees or 4 90-degree angles. But we also deal in triangles, which triangle is 180 degrees when all its angles are added up. Once again, 9. Mathematics is an underlying principle we cannot escape even in our spirituality. It's caught up in how we breathe, how we eat, the things that we do that are ritual throughout the day. Ritual comes from a rite. A rite comes from arithmos, which is Greek. It's where we get arithmetic from. So a rite or a ritual is nothing but the mathematics that you utilize to get you through the day. We utilize math all the time, but we never apply the fact that it's the breathing math that changes your frequency. The wavelengths that exist within you that allow you to pick up on different things. They say the ancient ones had gifts, telepathy, things like that. That takes a different type of breathing structure because you breathe in the way that you breathe is not going to get you any kind of magic. If the power and the energy is within you, how can you access it if you can't breathe? What spiritual gifts are you obtaining if you can't breathe? Now, that's not to say that there's not some special ones out here who, without properly breathing, they are in tune. But understand that there's different levels of this always. Mathematics, arithmetic, rites, ritual, it makes up our entire day. Most Muslims at a minimum pray about 5 times a day. They have it at certain time periods of where the sun is at that time of the day. That dictates when they pray. So the movement and mathematics of the sun dictates their spirituality. Our spirituality is of the utmost importance, so most of us say. But in dealing with our spirituality, how many of us actually function on breathing? It's that simple. Breathing. Most of the magic that we try to obtain, some of us calling the names of magi and things like that, how do you breathe? She's so spiritual. He's so spiritual. Really? They must be great breathers. How we breathe is what dictates our spirituality. The mathematics and harmonics of it. It has nothing to do with religion. And if you truly understood religion, you would understand that there's a math to it as well. And it doesn't take you away from how you breathe. How we worship, how we adore and show adoration should affect how we breathe. How spiritual are you? And what makes you spiritual? Spirituality, being spiritual, exists in us all day long. Because there's not a time that you go through the day, whether sleep, awake, running, swimming, fighting, studying. You always breathing. Breathing brings you closer to deity. Deity breathed into you and animated you to a living form. Whether you want to call that creator mom, because mom took a substance that's within her and contracted, and it breathed. And here we are. Can't call ourselves God if we don't know who God is or what God is. The same way we can't be spiritual or call ourselves spiritual beings. We don't know how to practice breathing. It's not a secret science. It's breathing. It's funny to look at things like we literally have to study how to breathe. How we breathe puts us in trance and be able to even talk to the ancestors. Most of the magic that's being practiced in the world is based on breathing. We can get into diet and many other things. But even when you eat, you breathe. How spiritual are you? dictate how other people aren't spiritual. But how spiritual are you? How do you breathe? With that, I say peace.
Well, can we open up some questions? Type some questions. Type your questions in. This is very, man. Brother, you did this justice, man. Oh my goodness. I was just, you saw my face facial expression where I was highly pleased because you're giving the people the proper meaning of spirituality. That proper application is you put it in and set them in its culture and setting in time. You apply the proper cultural application to it. It was absolutely, man, wonderful, brother.
Appreciate it.
You didn't have the screen up, but you did a wonderful job, man. This was great, brother. We got to open up for questions. This is the etymology, because etymology means the history, origin, and true meaning of words. Words, when you're talking about the language, you're talking about culture. It's not just, language is a vehicle, that we communicate with each other. That means you don't understand language then. If you only say it's that. If you only defining it as that. Anyone who defines it merely as that don't understand language.
Indeed.
They don't understand language because it's the culture. It's that passing, the culture's being passed down. The ideas, the folkways, how they, the ideas of, the knowledge base of a society that is passed down through language. It's just not a mere, way in which people communicate. They don't want us to know the cultural embodiment of language. It's the preservation of a culture that then is passed down through language. So this is so the European conquerors, conquistadors know that. They know that. Any questions? Any questions?
Yeah, I understand it's a science that most don't deal with when you're dealing with spirituality, I don't think I upset anybody in stating what spirituality is, It's a part of what you already knew and what you already are. It's just that much more. You can pray all day, but when you pray and you breathe a certain way, they call them affirmations. When you pray and you breathe a certain way, they call them chants. And even when you add frequency or sound wave frequency to something, they wanted to call it a chorus or a curse. So the root, origin, meaning of words in their cultural context by the people who are utilizing those particular words is highly important. The same way we walk around talking about things are nice, when in its original meaning, nice meant ignorant. But we walk around today as the word means pleasant and always has meant pleasant, and that is a fallacy. We're adapting someone else's cultural meanings, and I don't even want to call them cultural meanings, because nice does not mean something good the way we think. It did not come from that. And when you understand the language crossover, that's why in most books that you read, you have a translation and you have a transliteration. And they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. The cultural meaning of a word by the people to where who you're studying, that's the meaning you have to go by. You can't go by the cultural meaning as this people over here put it, but then sometimes you can because they're almost identical. But then you got those who utilizing it to cast spells and get you to cast spells on yourself. And one of the things that's never touched on is breathing. They got you thinking spirituality is strictly religious. It's just, oh, if you're spiritual, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. It's a separation. It's a difference. Can you explain that to me? Because in your spirituality, you're not telling me nothing about how you breathe. You're telling me about standards and principles that make you a good person or will make you feel a certain way by how you conform. But that's not telling me what spirituality is. And you think about it, ask most people out here that claim that, yeah, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. Ask them to break that down. It'll seem like they're giving you the meaning of religious. I trust in the universe. Okay, so you trust in breathing because breathing is part of the universe. The universe contracts and expands as well. For every star that closes in on itself and then boom, expansion. That one star now just created a galaxy through an explosion, through contraction and expansion, through the taking in and sucking in and expelling. The universe breathes. So if you're universal, you still saying you know how to breathe. How do you exercise that? At least once a day, every day. In a 365 day rotation around the sun in the mathematics that we go by today. How many of those days do you actually breathe properly? How many days do you donate to the universe? How many days you donate to just practice breathing? Once a day. For every deacon in the zodiac had a star that applied to it. And guess what it also had if you get into the Kemetic studies? A meditation and a way of breathing for that deity or for that time period. Every 10 days, a different star rose up with the sun. At that time, it was what, for lack of a better word, we would call it a 10-day week that the Egyptians or the Kemetians was using then. We had 3 10-day weeks that denoted a moon cycle, or a month, as they call it. Right now, we got 7 days. Wasn't always 7 days in a week. Everybody's calendar fits the nation that's dealing with the calendar. Who says that everybody's calendar has 7 days? Who says that everybody's dealing with a solar calendar? You still have lunar calendars. You have Slavic cycles. You have different cycles depending